Did you know that the vaccine manufactured by the mRNA, they actually synthesize a spike protein in your body and the patients who got vaccinated, which is different from the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. And can you see the difference here in the KB and the PR here in the block? If these are amino acids, okay, they replace the KB with the P here, okay, in the vaccine. Why this was necessary that you replace it by two prolines. P stands for proline. So in the original virus there was KB, they replaced it by two proline. And if you go check the manufacturer, what we call as catalog, it says that this PP is only because they didn't want the TMPRS enzyme to cleave the S1 protein from S2 so that the S1 protein could not enter inside the cell. A very classic and very brilliant explanation given by the vaccine manufacturers. But I have a question.
Hello and welcome to Long COVID Foundation podcast. Are you seeking answers and solutions for the lingering effects of long COVID? Well, you've come to the right place. This is your go-to channel for educational resources tailored to help you understand and cope with the challenges of long COVID. Whether you've been following us from the beginning or just joining our ever-growing community, we extend a warm invitation for you to hit that subscribe button and become a part of our ever-curious and supportive audience. So without further delay, let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Abdul Manan Beg. Let's get started.
So let me begin with sharing the screen now. Here it is. So all of you can see the slide, number one. So this actually is a group discussion that will span around long COVID. We'll talk about vaccine-mediated adverse events and how these two events and other events lead to MCFS. Before we jump into the discussion broadly, I'll tell you something that I'm not going to speak a lot on long COVID, how it occurs, the pathogenesis and its cascades. There are certain slides we'll talk about it. My main aim is to go to issues like how to remove the spike protein, how to address the spike, which is common in the plasma and the tissues of patients with long COVID and vaccine-injured individuals. So let me first start by telling you how it all started. Okay, so it was 16 December 2022 when the CDC actually updated its long COVID or post-COVID conditions. And if you see this paper, okay, which was published in late 20s and early 2021, when we emphasized that even when the disease was not being named, okay, so we talked about some need of an appropriate medical terminology that should be ascribed to long COVID. I'm just showing you this for the reason that I want you guys to know that how we are observing it on a timeline. So this is the time I'll tell you when actually WHO, CDC, NHS, and NIH at that time, at the beginning of 2021, and even very great journals, okay, were reluctant to actually accept long COVID as a disease entity itself. So while they were debating that, okay, we knew that this is going to eventually get incorporated in medical books and published literature. So we debated on its nomenclature, how it should be actually named. We have got a publication record on this, as you can see here, 2020. In the year 2020, we had 20 papers on COVID and not long COVID, a single on long COVID in December. And then 2021, we had 9 papers, 2022, again 9 papers, and 23 is in progress. So all of it is revolving around COVID, long haulers, pathogenic mechanism, treatment modalities, you name it. So when it comes to long COVID and vaccine-injured individuals, just recently we published. This is the one which I was referring to, that we all know. Long COVID is a multi-system, multi-organ. We just start from the systemic effect. You see the alertness of the individual is just like an expiring battery. Energy is left to do the routine work. Fatigue is there, okay, and PEM and neuropsychiatric symptoms, pulmonary, endocrine, gastroenterological. Then there's the urological here, okay, musculoskeletal, dermatological, kidney-related. Especially I put a start with the cardiovascular and ENT and you name it. I mean, like if you see here, okay, then there's the immune system, if I'm not wrong. So they say hematologically here, but then they don't include the lymphocyte associated conditions. So many things are missing even from this slide. So I'll take you to this one now, which was actually 1 in 10, 2 months back. And then the CDC upgraded it to 1 in 5 adults. Just imagine 1 in 5 adults in the population like US, UK, okay, what would it mean? So we alerted the community back in 2021 that this is going to be enormous health problem and then an economical problem for the countries and healthcare agencies who are neglecting it. It happened. When it happened, okay, now they are counting the amount of the losses in the job and the economical what we call as collapse, the depression phase in which they could get. So long COVID has got neurological component, no doubt, but then there are three things, okay, which dominate the picture. The cardiovascular events in form of thrombosis and embolism, we call it thrombosis, and it's also been given the very popular name of microclots. I'll tell you why there is a difference. And autoimmune diseases, which are attacking the tissues of patients with long COVID, and also certain conditions, okay, which are not explainable by the thrombosis, and that is microclot and autoimmune that actually span over the patient, okay, and they're very difficult to understand. Very quickly, I will take you through these slides where we talk about neurological aspects of it, brain fog, dizziness, okay, which starts from acute, continues into long COVID, and they develop eventually the neurocovid symptoms. Alarming is the fact is not the brain fog. Alarming is that they start developing fibrils, amyloid-like fibrils in the brain, and that actually has been proven by shrinkage of the brain mass in some recent publication from Oxford and UK, and also a decrease in the white matter content, and then these changes are supposed to be irreversible if the damage is occurring to the neuron. So there's a question, is there a damage to the neuron? We talk about that, but I'll tell you that if you damage the milieu or the environment, okay, eventually the neuron dies, be it due to neuroinflammation or direct attack by SARS-CoV-2 or the persistent virus which exists in the brain and cavities of long COVID patients. We'll talk about that in a minute. But you see, these are only symptoms which are tip of the iceberg. I mean, like there are huge body systems involvement. This one is especially showing you what could happen to the brain, and that amyloid deposition, which is itself derived from the small segments from the spike protein, can actually produce irreversible effects sometime by the cell damage here. And if you contain the inflammation, possibly minor chance that if you fix it in time and the inflammation didn't damage the neurons, there is a recovery possibility which we are observing now in many of the patients who actually seek an early advice. Okay, so that takes us to this one. And you see the basis is not only damage to the neuron, but the cerebral blood vessels are affected. And eventually there is a deposition of spike protein, amyloid fibrils in the brain, leading to, and we have got over 16 papers now, including in the Nature, that Nature publishing group or journals, that this deposition is taking place as we talk. So, and also not neglecting the dysautonomia part of it, which actually produces spots and other symptomatological, what you call as complex and long COVID patient. It is a dilemma. It is a public health emergency. I'll use the word, okay, it may not be that fatal, but it's disabling. So it's disabling to the point that, I mean, like, I especially would like to say a word to those authorities, who call them authorities, who actually first gaslighted the patients, and guys like me who advocated for these patients that, it's all in the head. The patients are like very much scared. Okay, it's a psychosomatic thing. Psychosomatic doesn't produce a heart rate going to 130 beats per minute in 2 seconds when the person stands, okay, from a sitting to a posture. And I don't know. I mean, the guys who are listening to me, and when it gets projected, okay, the killing symptom. I mean, the heart when it goes to 140, what you feel inside the chest. You only can imagine. Okay, after a 100-meter sprint, it happens for like 2 minutes in your chest. But just imagine if it happens to a patient with long COVID, whenever they do stand from a lying position or sitting position, and it doesn't stop for several minutes, what kind of apprehension anxiety to set up in those patients. So it's not due to anxiety, but this causes the anxiety to the point that it drives the person crazy. So it's not only the disability. It eventually, if it affects the heart, thrombosis, like you see here in the slide, the spike protein and the persistent virus, if it could do that, I mean, like these guys are shouting, they are calling for help. Okay, if you don't help them, if the agencies and the government authorities, healthcare system doesn't address it, I mean, like forget about the job. Okay, be ready for the morbidity and the mortality that it can cause. Leads me to this slide. Okay. So I posted a picture of mine. Okay, with my deltoid like this. Okay, and my hospital actually giving me the jab, and I was with a smiling face there. So when you see my profile on Twitter in 2021 and late 2020, okay, I was one of the advocates of vaccine. Okay, and that if you don't take this, okay, I used to ask, what would you take then? I mean, like, what do you have? You don't have, and I was not fooled by the vaccine manufacturers. I was fooled by the death, you know, because it was not transparent, and now things are emerging. They changed my point of view on it. See, there's a very clear cut evidence, and I'm going to say it slow, so that all of those okay who think that this vaccine is I mean, like, is different from others, that we made it very quickly, the public needed it, all understood. Okay, it has got adverse effect rate which has not been seen in past with any of the vaccines manufactured against any of the virus. Two or three reports of neural or hematological adverse effect. The vaccine used to be halted, globe-wide, not in the country. I mean, okay, and the incidences of the adverse effect which are being reported with this vaccine has actually it has exceeded any of the vaccine given in the past. So okay, we call it the vaccine adverse event reporting system for the sake of actually the incident's actual occurrence, but the incidence is too much to handle. I mean, the guys developing neurological, hematological, myocarditis, and you can ask me, okay, is there irrefutable evidence of it? Okay, look at this one. So this is a clinical research in cardiology journal, one of the very respected journal in medicine and among the high impact journals, okay, in publishing in heart and blood vessel disease related pathologies. See the title of the study. It's a autopsy-based histopathological characterization of myocarditis after anti-SARS-CoV-2 vaccination. And you see the damaged myocardial cells here infiltrated with lymphocytes. Okay, here they have stained the lymphocytes. They are showing it to you. The article link is below. And this paper, I mean, now there are several of them. Okay, this paper appeared to be irrefutable evidence that they found the circulating spike protein in the serum and the blood of the patients with this myocarditis. So the side effects ignored, yeah. They were data not revealed, yeah. And what did it do? It causes a thrombosis like this in the vessel. And I don't call it microclot for a reason that in a person who is living and who is walking, if the formation of the clotting takes place within a vessel, okay, you go check the books of textbook of medicine and pathology, okay, you call it thrombus. You don't call it a clot. Clot is only when you give yourself a prick, it drops on a glass slide or the table and it becomes jam. So clotting is a normal phenomenon. If you don't have it, okay, you are in trouble. So saying that clotting is bad, no, it's your friend. I mean, like, you daily rupture to 25 to 75,000 blood vessels in your body, and those clots are repaired them. Dangerous is not the clot. Dangerous is the thrombus. That means you've got a running cardiovascular system, and then you develop a mass like this, okay, made up of platelets and fibrinogen. It obstructs the circulation, causes heart attack, causes stroke, causes gangrene, causes bowel, what you call infarction. You name it. I mean, like, anything which is supplied by a blood vessel is under threat. So what I mean to say here is this: there is a lack of clarity in even the terminologies which we are using, and calling them microclots is good, okay, only outside the body. And then here you can see how this virus sparks the clotting. And we'll talk about that in a minute. brings me to my next slide. Okay, so this one. Did you know that the vaccine manufactured by the mRNA, or what you call as synthetic vaccines, okay, they actually synthesize a spike protein in your body and the patients who got vaccinated, which is different from the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein. And can you see the difference here in the KB and the PR here in the block? So if these are amino acids, okay, they replace the KD with the P here, okay, in the vaccine. Ask me a question, okay, why this was necessary that you replace it by two prolines. P stands for proline. So in the original virus there was KB, they replaced it by two proline, and if you go check the manufacturer, what we call as catalog, it says that this PP is only because they didn't want the TMPRS enzyme to cleave the S1 protein from S2 so that the S1 protein could not enter inside the cell. A very classic and very brilliant explanation given by the vaccine manufacturers. But I have a question. If it was a vaccine which was only programmed to produce a protein so that the body can recognize it, develop immune system against it, and prevent future infections, why did they even think of the fact that this protein would enter the cell? I mean, why should a protein synthesized by a vaccine would enter the cell and you make the protein substitution only to make that impossible? I'll tell you what. And then I started smiling. I noticed, okay, before I say that word. The thing is that the manufacturers knew that this protein is going to enter the cell. So they actually tried to block that entry by replacing it by two proline. And I'll tell you what happens if you replace that KB with two proline. If you replace it, the spike protein can go bind to the ACE2 receptor without a virus. I mean, okay, because in the vaccine there is no virus. Okay, so the spike protein synthesized after the vaccination goes and binds to the ACE2 receptor. Okay, and then the enzyme in its proximity, TMPRS, cannot actually cleave the S1 and S2, so the protein won't enter inside the cell. Why did they even think that this protein would attempt to enter inside the cell? I mean, like, okay, I don't have any answers. I wrote to them, okay, never got an email reply back from them. The thing is, they only realized after the manufacturing of the vaccine that it uses other receptors like NRP, ADAM17, GP41, and I'm missing the left side of this slide, this figure, and there are 11 more receptors, okay, via which the spike protein can enter inside the cell and be mounted on the virus or not. There was a fear, there was an apprehension that possibly this protein could enter inside the cell and cause some mischievous effects, okay, that they actually blocked very successfully. Let me praise the vaccine by saying that they did it marvelously by replacing the KB with two proteins. But the question remains, what would happen if this spike protein binds to other 11 receptors, okay, like this ADAM17 and GP41, and enters inside the cell and causes those mischievous effects that we are observing now? Okay, so if you have got these receptors on the heart, spike protein would go bind to it, okay, and if it's engulfed inside the cell, you can sign it, okay, that the guy will develop conduction disturbances, rhythm disturbances, contractional disturbances, and all the events. Okay, so if it enters into the brain, what would it do? So let's take you here. So if the same spike protein can enter the neuron or the glial cell by other receptors other than ACE2, which the vaccine manufacturer thought that it would only use ACE2. If it's using NRP1 here, which is actually documented by a published paper in Nature, you can sign off that neuron. I mean, like, if it accumulates inside, that spike protein accumulates inside the neuron tries to break it into small pieces, and that become amyloid, okay, by going into polymerization. The reason the Oxford study actually has seen the shrinkage in the brain masses of the patients with COVID, that study is a very popular one on the PubMed. So this was just to actually make you guys aware that, okay, they did a very marvelous job by replacing the two prolines, okay, here, okay, inserting them instead of KB, where exactly the S1 and the S2 proteins are separated, and then the S1 protein becomes dangerous. But then what would we do about the other receptors of they actually this protein and mounted over the virus or not enters inside the cell and causes toxicity? And we know there are no answers. And just to show you that this protein, spike protein, has got amyloid-like sequences which are not identical, they are similar. This is one thing that I actually managed to uh, show, okay, and it is under review for publication now, but then I'm revealing this slide, okay, because publication is not important to me, awareness is. So you see at the top, there is a human amyloid precursor protein, red arrow. This is the S1 protein. And all the regions where you can see a solid bar is a perfect match, and the two dots are dots of similarity. And just try to skim over the entire sequence, okay, and see that can you spot small segments, okay, where the bars and the doubles are like so much in continuity that like this segment where I'm moving the mouse can act as an amyloid precursor like protein. And what if the neuron chops it into these segments and those segments actually behave like amyloid, get deposited in the neuron, and then the job is done. Let me tell you one more thing. If the spike protein enters into the brain, body recognizes it as a foreign body, macrophage, neutrophil come, they actually try to ingest it. A very well documented paper has shown that neutrophil, when releases this enzyme elastase, it can chop the spike protein into these small fibrils, which are amyloidogenic, means they are amyloid-like. The reason you are observing fast aging in patients with long COVID and even in COVID. So that takes me to the next slide. I don't want you to get, like very anxious by looking at this slide. It's a very busy slide, I know. This one is showing you only one thing. Be it a spike protein, okay, or an entire virus, doesn't matter. Both the spike protein and the virus damage the endothelium. They activate the cascade of the clotting. Here it is shown, known as intrinsic pathway and extrinsic pathway. And once this cascade is activated, it forms a mass like this, which we call as microclot. Okay, fine. I call it a thrombus between a living cardiovascular system. This thrombus then goes and blocks the coronary artery, causes stroke. This goes, blocks the cerebral blood vessel, causes stroke. Sorry, here it causes myocardial infarction. In the heart and in the brain, okay, it causes stroke. In the fingers, it causes gangrene. With or without the virus, okay, the spike protein is capable of causing endothelial injury. And it also can go and activate a complement system in the liver, which in no time can kickstart this cascade, okay, leading to formation of those microthrombi. So endothelial injury here, shown in blue arrow here, is the mother of them all. The rest of them is a cascade, okay? So you can ask a question. Does the spike protein causes endothelial injury? Over 72 papers on PubMed, okay, all in well-documented journals, directly with or without the virus, it is capable of doing that. So it takes me to this slide, which shows you a very detailed structure of that spike protein. Will not go into details of it. You can see here exactly they substituted two prolines so that the body enzyme system cannot split it to S1 and S2. So normally the body splits it here, okay, and after splitting the S1 becomes the source which actually causes the virus to enter inside the cell. Remember in this slide, I told you that I'm missing the left side of this picture where 11 more receptors are present. Here for your view. Okay, look at this. NRP1, GRP78, okay, furin associated, okay, and LFA1, and then CD30, DPT4, okay, CD147, AXL, Vinmentin, okay, all these are let me pause and say this slow. All of these receptors have, the least of them has got 5 papers published. How about that? So just imagine the virus without the S protein with or without the virus is capable of entering inside the cell. So you saw the intention of the scientists, okay, the manufacturers who actually substituted to proline. That was only because for the reason that they didn't want the protein to enter inside the cell. What would they do, okay, for these receptors? If it sits here and then enters inside the cell, which is happening as we talk in patients with long COVID. Again, the diagram, okay, that shows you the position here. We published this one in ACS Chemical Neuroscience. The threat. And look at this one. I'm going to take 1 minute on this, okay, before. If the virus enters the nose from here, okay, there is a region here known as pulviform plate. Here we show it to you. Okay, so this one is the superior aspect of it. Okay, and behind the screen is the lower aspect of it. So it's placed horizontally here. It has got these sieve-like opening. And just imagine if you can see with your eyes, okay, naked eyes, the openings. Just imagine. SARS-CoV-2 enters the nose and the mouth, okay, through the breathing, it goes to the lung, understood. But the viral loads are here. Naturally, you know why the viral loads are here, because they actually test for the PCR not in the lung. They actually put the cotton bud in the nose because the viral loads are here. So you tell me, okay, what would prevent it going to the brain, okay, through these olfactory, what you call as these pulviform plates. And just above it is the olfactory bulb. Now you would shake your head, okay, saying, oh, now I understand why there is a loss of smell, because this region actually is responsible for that olfactory mucosa that makes you smell. So loss of smell and taste, okay, occurs in COVID early. We were the first to alert the scientific community in 2020. I remember the date, 13th March. Mariam would have a link of that even, okay. And I was gaslighted by my peers at my own university and elsewhere throughout the world that you always find something related to the CNS, okay. So you are now saying that the virus is going to the brain through the same. Believe me on that. 2021, 12 group of authors published in Nature, they found SARS-CoV-2 RNA from this area, from olfactory bulb, the olfactory mucosa, and the frontal lobe. And this was autopsy finding, okay, that confirmed the presence of the SARS-CoV-2 mRNA that actually we detect, okay, in a PCR in this region in an upward direction. So, okay, let's talk now. Tell me, how many of you think that Omicron is mild, that they fooled us on, okay, initially, that Omicron is mild, okay, even if you get, okay, 2 days illness, and I mean, like, who guarantees that Omicron cannot enter the nose, okay, and from here would not go to the brain? And now, the most reported brain fog patients are with Omicron. We have been fooled like uneducated, naive guys, okay, from the day one, and we kept on believing that whatever they say is correct, okay, mild virus, okay, Omicron is mild. What is mild that is going to the brain? Tell me, where is the mild part of it? This virus seriously knows how to be neurotropic, and it causes neurological symptoms. That's the basis of so many patients with long COVID. Let me take you to this one. How any consultant you go to, any GP, any specialist you go to, how should we actually approach the patients with long COVID? And very quickly, I'll tell you something, and this is about to be published. It's again under review. Saying is easy that long COVID is a multi-system, multi-organ disease, you know. But when a patient will come to you, okay, he will be either leading in a condition called vascular COVID, neuro COVID, immuno COVID, or mixed COVID. It's the art of the diagnosis by history taking that you actually put one of these or two of these, okay, on the top, that what is the most appealing symptom and sign of the patient, okay? So some of the guys I did in my clinical practice with long COVID, they come, they have got vascular COVID, like abnormal clots, which we call as thrombi, venous thrombi as the leading thing causing their trouble. They had neurological problems, some immunological disturbances, but then the vascular COVID sometimes appears to be 9 out of 10, this one 5 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 2 out of 10. So if it scores like that, you know what you diagnose this condition as? And this term, you will not find it on Google, okay? The vascular COVID. I named it, okay, because the vascular lesions are dominant. If the neurological ones are dominating, then what I do is I ask question and I advise this, okay, this is free to all the consultants, I mean, that you can share it with them, because the point is not publishing it. The point is making those consultants and my peers aware that how to sort the patients with long COVID in an effective way. So if a person is coming with or scoring 3 with brain fog and brain associated symptoms, keep on putting 1 star to them after each complaint, you know. And at the end, counting the star will tell you that either the patient is of neuro COVID or vascular COVID. So sometimes, you know, I don't find both of them. I just see low cortisol levels, low lymphocyte levels, or autoantibodies. So all the stars then shift to this one. You tell me, what would we call it? Immunophobia. Or if all of them are there, okay, two stars with some of them jumping in this category that you can see in the list, we call it mixed COVID. So the approach should be to actually address that part of the human organ first, which is actually making most of the complaint. How to clear the spike protein, because one thing common in between long COVID and vaccine adverse effect is that big S protein. So this big spike protein, which is here mounted over the virus, here it is alone, represents that it is the basic underlying cause of what long COVID. So you heard it as with the name of viral persistence. So ask a question: where does this persist? It persists here in the gut, the biggest reservoir ever known in human body. And when I say persist there, try to understand where exactly it is. It's within the crypts, in the space, which is hollow. No blood vessel reaches there. So even if your body generates a antibody and monoclonal or polyclonal, it could go to the mucosa, but it would never go to the lumen. By lumen, I mean the cavity. Same is true for the viruses which are hiding and nobody actually wants to address them in the sinuses here. So if they are hiding here, and no blood vessel reaches it, so what great would Pfizer or BioNTech or any other company would do, okay, if it manufactures a drug? Let's say it's a green drug that they manufacture, give you by an injection. Can that drug reach the cavity of the sinus? No. Can that drug reach the cavity of the gut? No. So this is done by probiotics for the gut. And for sinuses, okay, some of you guys know that I very much the concept of nebulizer, because the saline and the concentration that is recommended goes and actually kills the virus here. And it's not a magic, okay? And I'll tell you what. If you are doing this nebulization or taking probiotics, don't expect that in third week or second week, I'm going to be jumping in a park. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to completely eradicate this virus, be religious in doing it, okay? You'll never miss your probiotic or your nebulizing session. You have to be persistent, just like the virus is the case. This is how you do it. If you have got a nebulizer, okay, you can nebulize. You can manufacture nasal spray with natural product with a novel design, okay, and that would eradicate it in the nose and sinuses. For the gut, you heard me probiotic, and I'm no specialist in probiotic, okay, so I would refer you to go to a gastroenterologist or a guy who's expert in this. I mean, I know a few of them, okay, and when you need the help, okay, I can guide them. Okay, so probiotics for a longer period, you change the menu, you change the environment, because one of my colleague scientists has shown that the bacteria in the gut, they actually harbor this virus as a Trojan horse, and it actually proliferates within the bacteria in the gut. So when the bacteria actually ruptures, again, now you understand the meaning of the reactivation of virus. It actually hides inside the bacteria. So if you kill the bacteria, okay, you also kill the virus. I mean, because they come out of it, okay, and then the probiotics can actually attack them. Okay, they are a good one. So long COVID, if it's autoimmune immunoglobulins, you should approach an immunologist. Okay, they have got drugs known as immunomodulators, some very selective immunosuppressants that can actually reduce the formation of autoantibodies. And here comes my favorite, the S protein treatment. So see the S protein in the mix. Okay, so how you can actually address this? You can degrade it, you can paralyze it, you can remove it. So let's take them one by one. Okay, paralyze. There are a list of compounds, okay, which are written here on the left hand side. Okay, I'm a big fan of all of them, especially the quercetin and butylin. Okay, hesperidin, my favorite, only because NIH tried this one in one of their COVID-19 trials, okay, and they knew that it works. Okay, and now everybody knows. So why I say paralyze it? Because these molecules go and bind to that area of the spike protein, which actually sits over the receptors, okay, that you heard in the previous slide. Not only ACE2, but also other receptors. So if these molecules can engage the receptor binding domain or motif of the spike protein, okay, it cannot enter the human cell. So you castrate it. I call it, I use a civilized word here, paralyze it. It's more a castration. That virus is as good as a dust particle if any of these or all of them or some of them go bind that area, which actually enables it to entry inside the cell. Degrade it. Okay. So there could be enzymes, okay, like this one. And I'm just like, I have to take this thing only because it's very common in long haulers these days. Okay. So if you have got this enzyme, netokinase, okay, so what it could do, it could go and break the clots, okay, and then actually somehow getting benefits out of it because the ischemia is restored. The dangers are that if it breaks the bigger thrombus into smaller ones and it starts traveling in the periphery, it can go and block the smaller arteries in the periphery. So let me show you what I mean. So if it's paralyzing some, so, or if it's actually degrading some big thrombus here in the arm and the artery is big, it's going to break it into small pieces. Make an educated guess where those small pieces will go in the hand and then eventually in the finger. So if you don't completely digest it, okay, the clot or the thrombi, there is a chance that this could go and cause some embolism in the digits. Some of you patients have been complaining tingling and discoloration of the nails here and the nail beds are pale. Maybe I don't know. A vascular scan can show. But then keep in mind if you degrade it completely. Okay, and if you want to degrade the spike protein, this is one word of caution. If you want to degrade the spike protein, okay, degrade it completely. I mean, into amino acid. If you degrade it incomplete, okay, it forms a special type of a fibril, which I showed you in the previous slide. And those fibrils are capable of polymerization and causing amyloid deposition in the neuron. So dangers of even breaking the spike protein into small segments are there. So in the neuron, if you break it into small pieces and you don't actually completely digest it, the small fibrils are dangerous because they can polymerize and deposit as a plaque in the neuron that they have observed. Now papers are emerging on that. So beware of that. Thrombolytic agents are very good. Okay, if they can actually lyse the thrombus, but then we have seen that the body normal fibrinolytic system cannot do it. So prescription of anticoagulants to prevent the formation of the thrombi could be a good approach, and it's actually been seen that it's doing some help. But what will happen if we stop that anticoagulant? Spike protein, endothelial injury, activation of the cascade of the coagulation, formation of the thrombus, it will keep on happening. So anticoagulants are not the answer. The answer is a way how you would clear the spike protein. And if you want to degrade it, the plan should be good. Degrade it completely. Incomplete degradation would lead to even thrombosis because those fibers, okay, which are known as split products of this that you saw in this slide. Okay, let me take this very quickly and come back. And this slide, which are amyloidogenic, they also promote thrombus formation in the blood vessel. So these small fragments that you see here, they are bad news. Okay, both for the blood vessels and organ perfusion and the brain. Last slide now to come, please, and then the QA. Okay, so here we are. Drug development research, okay, needed medicinal chemistry, needed supplements. You have to just be very choosy. Okay, don't jump on every supplement. Okay, if it's a NAC, try to see what augmented NAC means, and then try to do your own research. Don't jump over melatonin if you just heard melatonin. Okay, because sometimes it will give you vivid dreams. Okay, hangovers in the morning. Just see what your peers are using. Use the dose that your doctor recommends. That all, and then just to show you the arsenal of what can be given in this condition: antioxidants, okay, and anti-neuroinflammatory. So there is a list fact of here. Don't jump on them. I kept this slide only to show you one thing. Don't jump on all of them at one time. Okay, let your doctor or an expert decide what you need the best. Thank you very much. Okay, pleasure. Okay, talking to you guys.
And that wraps up today's episode. Please consider subscribing to our podcast so you never miss on future discussions with leading experts and cutting-edge discoveries in the field of long COVID. Together, we can spread awareness and support those still battling the effects of long COVID. Until next time, thank you for being a part of Long COVID Foundation channel. Take care and remember, knowledge is power. Take care, everyone, and goodbye.